Ciao Stefano!
Ciao, how are you?
I'm great! It's kind of a little bit unusual, speaking in English, because we are usually speaking in Italian.
It would be weird to speak with you in English, but it's okay anyway.
So how are you? Climbing a lot around Arco?
Yes, I'm climbing a lot, training and climbing outside. Right now it's great for climbing outside, so you could have a good fun if you come here.
I've been training a lot for the Olympic Games, so that means also training a lot on the speed wall, but I mean, in a few months it will be over and I'll be able to stay more in Garda Trentino and climb on the rock and potentially with you as well. That would be great.
Yeah, it would be great.
Quite excited to compete in 2 weeks in Meiringen. Are you actually coming to Meiringen?
No. This year I decided not to compete in bouldering competition. I will focus on just lead climbing. After 2 years ago that I did all the possible competition in the whole year, this time I decided to focus just on my strength on lead climbing.
Sounds good. So where to start? We can start on the occasions when we first met. We are actually born in the same year, in the same month, right?
Yeah.
So we met for the first time in Marina di Ravenna when we were 8, 9 years old, something like that?
No, I think we were older because I started climbing at 11, so it was impossible.
Ah, okay.
It was around 2006, if I remember well. I remember I saw you for the first time in Marina di Ravenna, and that it was my first international competition, and you were there. How lucky I was to compete with you for the first time, and yeah, I remember it was a fun competition because it was on the seaside, and but it was a hard competition too because there were already big names. We were small, but there was Marcello Bombardi, I remember. It was you, it was Sebastian Berthet from Belgium. I remember it was a great competition.
And it was actually quite futuristic because it was already combined format back then, combining boulder elite and speed climbing.
Yes, we competed in everything. I think I almost beat you in the speed. We were very close. And then I remember you won bouldering and lead with easy.
Bravi!
So then we met on the Youth European Cups, right?
Yes, in Imst.
It was always quite difficult to compete at the youth competitions because I was kind of like expected to win. And for me, it wasn't like giving it everything that I have, but it was more like not to mess up. Which actually exactly happened in my first finals in Imst, because I was climbing like 1/3 up the route, and then I saw like to the right there was a wall, and I thought like, why not make a no-hand rest? So I made a no-hand rest. I was there maybe 20-30 seconds, and then I wanted to keep on climbing, and the belayer didn't want to give me a slack. And then I realized, that was my mistake, because I didn't see a black tape indicating that part of the wall was out of the game.
I remember well. I was there, and I was with the Italian team, and we were all, oh no, what is he doing? And then everybody, I think, was expecting you to win, and then you came probably last on the final, and it was very disappointing. For me, it was a bit different because it was my first youth competition in the European in the youth category, and for me it was totally different. I was expecting nothing because it was my first, and then I succeeded nothing because I arrived, I think, 21st or something. But it was a great time because it was my first time, and I didn't know what to expect. And it was my first European competition, and then in the second I went for the first time in the final. So the first was like a test. As for you.
Yeah. So the second competition was, I think, in Bulgaria, in Veliko Tarnovo, right?
Yeah. You won there?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, I was in the final, I remember. It was a good improvement for me and for you too.
I wanted to ask you about your background. So you said you started climbing quite late for our generation. So what kind of sport did you do before?
I used to go biking with my father. I started when I was 6 years old, so quite young. And this was my introduce to the world of sport, of the mountain. And this, I think, helped me a lot for the future competition because my mind was already set for competing. I was not very good in biking, so when I was 11 years old, I started climbing and I immediately changed my focus and start competing in climbing and see I was better, I was having more fun, so I completely switched when I was 12 years old and I stopped biking. My father was at the beginning not super happy because he's a mountain bike teacher, and then he understood that it was my road to compete in climbing and to go climbing. So it was super supportive, my parents, and everybody were happy for me and for my sister that started climbing with me.
So did you start climbing in the gym? You subscribed to some kind of club and you started attending this club?
Yes, my parents were not climbers, so it was not possible for me to go rock climbing at the beginning. So I started in a gym in Turin where I used to live. And then I started immediately competing. My very first competition was around 1 or 2 months after I started climbing. It was a youth competition. And I haven't the climbing shoes yet on my first competition. I have the,
Wow.
Yeah. And there I tried to climb on slabs with normal shoes and it was impossible for me. So I did all the boulders where I have to pull with my arms like super overhanging because it was not very important how to place the foot. And I remember I was second on the first competition, and there I understood that it was my sport, it was my thing.
So from the beginning, your specialty was steep stuff in the overhang.
Yes, from the very beginning. Yeah. No, maybe because I didn't have the climbing shoes yet. Maybe if I had the climbing shoes, I just learned how to climb in slabs too, but I think I was more comfortable on super overhanging terrain from the beginning.
So how did you discover the world of rock climbing, and when did you actually first get to Arco to climb?
First, I went to Arco for the Rock Junior. So it was my first experience here in Arco, and where I fell in love with the place. I remember already at the beginning when I competed in Rock Junior was a great experience because I was climbing on the wall where the Rock Master is held. So it was amazing for me. And then the place, the Garda Lake, everything was like a dream, was magical. But I never rock climbing in Arco before. I was maybe 16 or something. So it was.
Wow.
I came here and didn't touch the rock at all the first time. So it was a bit weird. And then first time I went rock climbing, it was maybe at the beginning, okay, but the first time I tried to climb a route with the purpose of sanding it. I was in Aosta Valley in Sara, so a very steep wall is like 45 degrees. Everything is chipped from 1980s.
Tetto di Sara, right?
Tetto di Sara, yes. And I remember the very first time I tried to climb a route for sanding it. It was a 7A. So I started climbing with this 7A, and I fell on site at the last quick draw. And then I watched the top of Sara, and I figured out that I actually climbed the 7A. That was the first chain. And then I almost fell. I almost climbed the 8A plus. That was the second chain on site.
Wow!
It was one of my first try.
So this was your first rock climbing ever, and you almost unsighted 8A plus.
It was not my first rock climbing ever. I tried a couple of times before, but just super easy stuff. This was the very first time I went rock climbing to send something like with like a competition mindset. I was like 14, 15, so I already competed in some international youth competition. So I was fit, I was strong, I was trained, but I never I never tried something on real rock. And that one was my first 7A that I climbed the first chain. Then in the same day, I did my first 7B and my first 7C in the same day.
Well, speaking about your power and also the crack of Tetto di Sara, later on you did something that completely blows my mind, and I think you are holding a world record in campusing, so climbing the entire route without your feet, an 8A plus, which, wow, it's just incredible.
Yes, it was the exact same 8A plus I was trying to onside the first time. And it was a bet with my friend that he told me, no, I think it's impossible to do without using the feet. I said, okay, I'm gonna do it. And then I tried for just one day, and I did it immediately. And I won a pizza. That's what I wanted was just a pizza. Maybe.
That's always the best prize.
Yes,
right?
yes. Have you ever tried campusing a route?
Yes, like some years ago when I was injured with my knee, I used to go to my home crag, and I didn't really find any lead route that would be like steep enough and with like good set of holes that I would be able to campus the whole route from the bottom all the way top. I just tried to campus some of the sections, but I tried to campus some of the boulder problems at the bottom of this crag. So I think I campus one 7C plus boulder problem, but I still think it's so much easier to campus this kind of boulder problem than campus that route. I actually did that 8A plus in Tetto di Sara as well, so I know the route, and I think it's relatively long, and the holes are far apart, and the holes are actually not that good in the end. So
yeah, but everything is straight like this, like a campus board. So you have just to pull like a campus board, and the hardest part was the clipping, because you have just one point of contact, and you start rotating. But okay, it was a stupid thing that I did one time. But I remember you did something like blindfolded, maybe a 8B.
Yeah. So there is a 1.8B I did many times at my home crag. I actually like also used to do training laps on it, so I did it like 10 times in a row, or I climbed up, down, and up. So I knew this route very well, so I tried to climb it blindfolded, because I heard about the paraclimbing team of Japan that the best guy actually was able to climb 8A plus, and he doesn't see a thing. So I wanted to try to feel how it feels, and well, it feels really hard. Like everything that is like kind of a little bit dynamic move is so much harder, because everything feels like so much more distant. Even though you know the route very well, once you do something dynamic, you are never really sure where the hold is, and usually from my experience you have to go every time you have to go a little bit further than you're expecting. So I did this 8B, but it actually took me like 4 tries extra, and I was so pumped. The surprising thing is that you have to also, it's really hard to choose for your footholds, because you have less sensitivity with your feet cramped onto the climbing shoes. So it's the easiest to go down with your hand, find a foothold with your hand, and then make a hand-foot match.
Crazy. We have weird records. The next step will be campusing blindfolded.
Yeah. So for you, at the beginning, when you turned 16, you started going for the World Cups?
Yes. I started in 2009, my first World Cup in Chamonix. Were you there? I think so.
Yes, yeah. It was my first international competition was the World Championships in 2009 in Shenyang. And then the next competition was Chamonix.
Okay, yes. I remember you were probably in final, and I started very from the bottom. I started competing when I was not, maybe I had not so experienced, but you neither. And but it was already my first competition, World Cup competition. I arrived 51st or something, and then every year I improved a bit and reach the final. You started in the final already, so we had a kind of different path.
Yeah. What is your attraction towards the competition? Why do you enjoy them?
I like the adrenaline and the kind of unique feeling that you have competing, like the flow when you're climbing in a competition. I think is just more intense, even of climbing something really hard on rock climbing. Mainly, I think because of the stage, because of the public, because of the sometimes almost every time is dark, it's night. So the feeling of the flow of the climbing in a competition is isolating me even more than rock climbing. When I climb something, even something super hard in rock climbing, I'm focused 100%, but there are always some moments when maybe when I rest, where I enjoy, where I think or something else. While competing, I think is 100% focus on that moment. And I found this more on competition than rock climbing. And what about you? Do you feel the same?
It's different. I think sometimes like the better competition is, like the more crowd, the better crowd there is. I feel like it even helps me to like dig deeper into this special kind of mental state, to be completely focused, to actually ignore that there is like 10,000 people behind my back,
Yeah,
like there is.
It's
in
the same for
Chamonix.
me. Yes.
And it's a surreal feeling. I think it's the feeling that I enjoy the most about the competition. A part of like creating the perfect challenge. You know, I think competitions motivate me to try to train a little bit more, to train more specific, to train harder. Because you know, at that moment, at that day, you have to deliver the performance. Which I think is also useful because you can then, after the competition is over, you can actually use all the training that you did before on the real rock.
Yeah, that's something that I always do. I train for the competition because it's even easier to set some goals, because competition is that date in like in mid-June. So I train 2 months, then rest 1 week, then train again, and I know that I have to be fit for that day. But then from that period, I'm very fit, so I can enjoy rock climbing at the best like without specific training for rock climbing. At least for me, it's always been like this. I train specifically for a competition, and then I'm always fit for rock climbing too.
I think for me it's also always important to find this balance between some competitions and some rock climbing. So for me, some of the years I'm not competing at all and only focusing on the rock climbing, enjoy. And then from time to time I'm really lacking this urge to compete, to tackle the challenge, to be challenged. And then I kind of lose the interest and I want to go rock climbing again. So right now it's been quite a long 2 or 3 years that I've been mostly focusing on the competitions, and I'm really glad that soon the competition season will be over, or let's say after the Olympics. I'm definitely want to go back into the places that I like, into the rock climbing crags, and climb a bit more there without practicing the speed climbing all over again.
I know. I felt the same, and for me it was different because I always competed all the years in my life, and last year in 2020 was the first year that I did not compete, and I focused mainly on rock climbing. So it was different because I trained specifically for rock climbing, and like from May to until July I trained specifically for change, for going to Norway and try to repeat change. Even if I just saw you in the video for the route, I try to replicate something on my wall and train specifically. And this was the first year that I didn't compete in any competition, and now I feel that I miss that feeling of competing, and I want to train again, and that's what I'm doing now for competing this year in the World Cup.
Yeah, but I was impressed by your climbing and by your mentality that sooner or later you always get there, you always improve, you constantly improve, and I think it was the same for you with the competition as like working on some of the hardest projects. Like at the beginning, even though you might not feel that strong in doing some of the moves, by the time you just improve and improve. And I think I can really see and feel that you just have the confidence and the trust in yourself that sooner or later you will just end up sending the project, or sooner or later you will end up winning the competitions. And
yeah, I think this is one of the greatest thing about climbing, that even if at the beginning you cannot move from a project, then at the end, improving, training, and trying the project, then you can send it. Yeah, I think it was one of the best thing about climbing.
I also wanted to talk about the first 9B in Italy, which is first ascent by you. It's called Lapsus, and it's in Andonno, so it's close to your former home in Turin.
Yes, I remember it was 2015. I started trying this route. There was a connection between Noia, the first 8C plus of Italy, and Anaconda, another 8C. And this route is quite long, and I tried for one whole year. From January, I think I started, and then I sent it in November. It was something that took me more than other routes, like biography or dementia senile. At the time, I was trying this route too. So I proposed the grade of 9B. I was the first one of Italy. And for now, the only repetition is from you. So,
yeah, for me, the crack of Andonno is quite special because I was there for the first time when I was like 12. When I was 13, I repeated the first part of this Lapsus 9B, which is Noia 8C plus. And that, I think, could be Italy's first 8C plus, right?
Yes, climb from Seves Cassa for the first time.
Yeah, I think it's first ascended in '93, which is the year when we were both born.
I know the date, the exact date. It was first ascended on February 14th. So between your birth and my, because you were born in February 5th.
Yes.
And I was born in February 18th. And Noia was born between us.
Nice. Well, we were always joking that I have a big advantage because I am 2 weeks older, so I had 2 weeks extra of training, no?
Yes. If you stop 2 weeks, I can reach you.
Well, I stop every 3 weeks annually in December, so...
But the problem is that I stop too, so I have to keep continuing climbing.
So you have to skip the rest and maybe then we will be equal.
Yes.
So, when I heard about your first ascent, I was really excited to also give it a try because I had a good memories of climbing in Andonno. And I think I tried it 2 or 3 days and I took quite a lot of falls at the very top, due to just arriving into the final section just way too pumped. But then I returned 1 month later and I checked the moves and I sent it the next tries on a like really beautiful day, crystal clear air, and I think it's a great route and hopefully more people will come and try to repeat this.
Right now, Marcello Bombardi is trying it. He lives quite close there, not very close, like 3 hours driving. But he's trying a lot, so hopefully we'll send it soon.
Cool.
But right now, the hardest route of Italy is another one.
Is in Arco, right?
In Arco. I climbed it last January, and it's ready for you. It's ready for whoever wants to try it. It's in Eremo di San Paolo.
Obviously, I watched the video, and I can't wait to give it a try, because some of the moves just look amazing. There are actually some of the most amazing obscure holds I've ever seen on a limestone, no? There's like right hand pinch, this tiny tufa, and make a heel hook and go into almost non-existent crimp, and then making a big double dyno in the middle of the route. It was your first route that you ever bolted, and it turned out to be 9B plus, right?
Yes. I think it was not random. I searched something that looks very hard. So it was not casually bolted something, then I discovered it was hard. I hoped it was hard. And I saw this line between two routes in Eremo di San Paolo. That is a small crag here in Arco, in Garda Trentino. And I saw that some holes were visible from the ground, but it looked kind of smooth. There were not so many holes. I thought maybe it's possible to climb something there. So I started bolting this route, and actually it was my very first route that I bolted. But before I bolted I put just one bolt between the next route, the Flatanger and Zauberfi, and I connected them. So my very first bolt was that one. But my very first route bolted was Erebor, that now it's called Erebor. And at the beginning I bolted a straight line, try to climb on something that was really smooth. Then in the middle part I noticed that it was really hard. It was almost nothing. And a bit on the left there were some holes. So I just put one more bolt on the left and did this variant of the original route, and I climbed this easier version of the route, that is 9B/9B plus. So there is also a harder version of Erebor that still is waiting for an ascent.
So let's maybe go back into the time that you moved to Arco. You moved there because of climbing, or because you liked it, or both?
Yeah, it was a combine of these two things, and also with Sara, my girlfriend, we were talking. We used to live in Turin, and we said that we like to move to a place where it's possible to climb the whole year and in every moment of the day. And it was a decision that we already made before we even met. When I met Sara, then I knew her and I met her, and we thought, okay, I'd like to move to Arco for climbing. And she told me, yes, I think the same thing. So when I finished the university, that was physical education in Turin. When in 2016 I finished university, and we decided to move to Arco to experience climbing at 100%.
It's pretty funny because with my fiance Eva, Arco was the first climbing trip we ever went together as a couple, and for us it's also really important place that we want to spend a lot of time in the future as well.
Yeah, but when was the first time you came to Arco?
So I think the first time I was in Arco, I don't remember because I was 3 or 4 years old, but there is a picture that is a proof. We are sitting in the dust at the crag of Massone with my sister. But the second time I was here, and that I already remember, I was 7 or 8 years old. And it was I remember that it was just the time when I started lead climbing. So Arco was perfect because there was lots of very well bolted routes that had lots of 6A, 6Bs with bolts that were very close apart. So I didn't also like it because it's a beautiful place, but because I could climb a lot and not being that scared. So since then I've been going to Arco every year. Maybe 2, 3, 4 times. There were, of course, the competitions, Arco Rock Junior and then the Rock Masters that I also liked a lot. I remember the second time I was in Arco, I was not only interested in the rock climbing, but I also wanted to climb on the same wall where the Rock Master was taking place. Already back then I was really interested in the history of climbing, and back then my big idol was Tomáš Mrázek. Back then he was a world champion and he was from the same hometown, so I definitely wanted to climb on the same wall as he was climbing. So during that trip I also convinced my parents, well, let me climb on that wall. I really wanted to climb to the wall. And I remember, so I was climbing on the Rockmaster Stadium on the right wall, and the route that was set there, I think it was around 6C or something like that, tackling the big roof, and I really wanted to get to the top, but the rope drag was so much and I was so little and skinny that I wasn't able to pull the rope due to the rope drag anymore. So I fell 2 quick draws below the top, but only because of the rope drag didn't let me in, and I was so frustrated. And I think the second time I was able to climb and get to the top of the wall was during the Rockmaster when I was 16 or 17.
Yeah, okay. And did you manage to go to the top or the rock drive stop you?
It was a different route, obviously. But on my first Rockmaster, climbing to the right of the wall, I remember it was an on-site route and I didn't get to the top. I fell like 5 moves from the top. I was too pumped.
Yeah, but I remember Rockmaster routes were kind of hard, so I can understand.
And always really pumpy. Actually, later on, I found out that this wall is like so pumpy and so long that it didn't really fit my style. On the competition, usually I prefer the walls that are like shorter, more like power endurance oriented and more powerful.
Yeah, I think the Rockmaster wall is one of the longest in competition. It's I think is around 20 meters or something. So it's a kind of my style because I like endurance route. But then I prefer more overhanging routes like the wall in Chamonix or in Briançon fits my style better.
And then this inverted roof is always so confusing. You never know like whether to climb your feet first or whether to campus it or...
Yeah, I remember the route setter said something that is always feet first, but then I decided always to go straight and campusing all the way to the top.
So after moving to Arco, you set the objective of basically climbing all the hard routes, right? And last year you just ran out of all the hard routes, so you had no other choice than bolting your own route.
Yes, first I started trying all the routes that were already established, so up to 9A, 9A plus I think there was. And then I started trying all the projects that were already bolted but not freed yet, like Omen Nomen in Padaro or some other projects in Lagel. And then after that I almost end up all the projects and the routes, so I decided to bolt something myself, and I think was the only way and probably the only way for the future. There is more satisfaction if you climb something that you bolted because you put everything on it, you see the wall that was blank, you decide where to put the bolts, you find the beta, you find out that this beta was a bit too weird and then try another one. And then when you climb something that you bolted, there is a more satisfaction than climbing that it was already established or already bolted. But you know something probably. You bolted a lot of routes.
Yeah, I feel definitely the same thing. Like making first ascents is great, but if you actually bolt it on the top of it, it gives you even more satisfaction because like the experience is full package. It goes from like exploring the unknown. For me, like bolting something that is completely untouched, you're like in the place that has never been touched by anyone before. It's a little bit like, you know, the new age, being a new age explorer. Like at the moment in the world, you can't really be explorer because everything is almost like explored. But there's still like some parts of the rock faces that nobody has ever been. It's always being so curious, like how that hold is gonna be, and being curious how the actual climbing will turn out and if it will actually turn out to be climbable or not climbable at all. To be honest, because before you bolted Erebor, I was in Eremo, which is the crag where Erebor is located, quite many times. And I never really noticed that would be a climbable line, because it just looks so hard, so impossible. And the features there are so vague that...
First I bolted just the first part and didn't even check the last part. And I hoped that it was something, but then I figured out all the moves on the first part, and then I bolted the second part, and it seems even harder, even more impossible than the first part. So it's waiting for you and looking forward, because there is a lot of satisfaction of climbing something that you bolted, but it's even more if someone repeated it, because it's not abandoned or not I climb it and it's finished. It is beautiful if some people start trying it and repeating the route. I think is the best thing, because it's something that I did for me, I did for other climbers, and I did for climbing in general.
Yeah, cool. In Arco itself, there's only one route that I bolted myself, and it's a project in Bus de la Stria on the far right hand side, and I think it also could be something that is definitely at least 9B or harder. So we could try it together.
Yeah, it would be nice. I was there once. I tried something else on the left, and I watched. It seems a blank wall. It's like super overhanging and with very small and maybe no holes at all.
And then there is the big project in Lagel, which at the moment is forbidden to climb because of the private property.
Yes, it's something that we have to arrange, and it's called the King Line. Actually, I think you call the King Line because you call the Queen Line the easiest version we climbed last year. It was already a hard 9B, and this like straight hand is way harder. I think you tried a couple of times. I tried a bit more, and I think it's at least 9B plus.
Yeah, I think too.
Yes, there is. You have to climb almost the whole 9B, the whole hard part of the 9B. Then there is this uncomfortable knee bar. That is something like this. But you're used to uncomfortable knee bars. I'm not.
I think the difficulty depends like how long you will able to like really release your hand and stay there.
No, you cannot. I think you cannot release your hand there.
I think given a lot of practice, because due to my experience, even on stuff like silence, there were sections when I like couldn't believe that it is possible to like release your hands. But after trying it like 100 times, all of a sudden I gained the confidence. I found the intricacies, like what to do with your knee, and especially it's all mental. Like you gain more and more confidence, and so after a lot of tries, I was able to release 2 seconds, and after even more tries, I was able to release for maybe 20 seconds. And for me, those 20 seconds of releasing the hands was like a big difference in terms of like all of a sudden I had the max power to do the next crux.
Yeah, it could be the key for that line. But I couldn't release the hands for neither half second, so I think it's a hard knee bar. But you are the master of knee bar, so you can find something.
I think I can teach you.
Yeah, thank you.
I think lots of people see making knee bars as something that is given, but they don't really see it as something that is trainable. If you really want to be a knee bar master, it's like you really have to train for it. Even like try to increase my capacity of hanging upside down and not turning dizzy. Because if you hang upside down for 2 minutes and all of a sudden you just go back and start climbing, like your head is turning and you feel dizzy and it feels awful. But even for that, you can get used to it.
But when you come to Arco, you can search something together that we can bolt and try to climb together. Bolting something, I realize how much work there is behind, how much work there is before just trying everything ready and go climbing, and even with the quick throws pre-placed sometimes. So it made me realize how much effort there is before we go climbing and behind the scene that we don't see. And I understood that also when I climbed change, I tried change. And, I think it was a great effort for you to bolt in it because it's a huge monster of 55 meters. How long does it take to bolt it?
Exactly 2 days. 2 days of full 2 days of work. I must say that I was really happy that you chose change because it was there for 7 years without actually anyone giving it any serious effort. Because I think everybody was kind of discouraged by this lower bolt problem that only includes this like shoulder weird Gaston crimps and really weird drop knees. And I was quite glad that you found a little bit different method that makes it also accessible to so many more people that doesn't like completely inverted drop knees, which is the way that I did it.
Yeah, I remember I was a bit discouraged too to try it, but then I was sure there was another way or even only if there was only that way, in some way I could do it anyway. And because it was a really steep terrain, so I thought, okay, this is my style. I can do it. Even if I can drop knee, I cannot drop knee behind my ear. I can do something something different. And then I figured out that with a knee bar, everything was possible. And hopefully someone will try it too after my repetition, I hope.
I'm glad that the new beta was found, but at the same time, I'm glad that the climbing didn't get any easier. I think it's just a different method that would feel harder for me, but feels maybe easier for you because it's more your style. But taking this massive swing of like left hand gaston and the right hand gaston 2-finger pocket seems just crazy to me.
Yeah, it was the hardest move for me. It took me a lot to do it. So when I climbed the first part, then I climbed the first pitch of change. But then in the next days, I couldn't climb the first part anymore because it was more time that I was there. I was more tired. So it took me a lot to gain again the confidence to climb the first part. And then I had to go back to Italy on the first day of September and to compete in the Italian competition. And when I went back to Flatanger, then the first cracks was not a problem anymore. I just could do it like 2 or 3 times in a day with no problem. And so the main cracks for the route became the second cracks. And I fell, I think, 2 or 3 times on the second cracks. One time in the middle, one time at the end of the cracks. And then on the third or fourth try that I passed the first cracks and I was able to go to the top.
For me, it was the same process because I spent 1.5 months in Norway, partly in Flatanger trying change. Then I went back home, trained, and returned in the autumn. I think like mid-September. I thought I would do it straight away, but well, I was feeling stronger in the first crux, but not like I could do it 2 or 3 times every day. And also I was experiencing quite bad weather conditions because most of the days like the holds at the first crux were a little bit humid, and then it was more of a question of just waiting for the perfect day when it was like windy enough that all the holds would be dry, and that day I finally sent it. But I actually heard that the day that you sent the change, the conditions were absolutely terrible.
Yes, I was lucky the whole month before because it was always dry, not too warm, not too cold, so I climbed the whole month very well. And then, but the day I sent it, it was the worst day of the whole trip because it was super hot. There was the sun, and a lot of holes were wet. Not the ones on the cracks, but some of the good holes where you rest were wet. So it was not the best condition to try it. It was possible anyway because they were big holes where you can rest, but. Having every time to dry the holes on the pants or taking chalk more than necessary was a bit frustrating. But I was there and I decided to try it anyway. So I started and passed the first cracks, and then I tried to rest in these wet holes. And then I went to the second cracks, and finally everything was dry. And I passed the second cracks too. And then I fought for until the very last move, even if they are easy. I was very pumped after like 50 meters of climbing that I was totally destroyed. I was gonna puke at the end.
I think everybody who will ever do this route will get this experience that by the time you reach the anchor, you just feel like you want to vomit. It's like so long and so intense.
Maybe we are not incentivizing to go to try it in this way. Maybe nobody will go to try it after this.
Yeah. For me, the try when I sent it, I made it through the first cracks very well, and I was thinking, I was like really fresh. I made it through the second cracks. It was quite a big of a fight. But then, like, right after, there were some boulder problems where I was a little bit nervous. Everything, like, went well. But I was just so surprised that like 10 meters below the anchor, all of a sudden I just got so pumped. And I also started like panicking, and like just the idea of falling there like 10 meters from the ground after climbing 45 or 50 meters would be just, you know, the worst horror you can imagine. I also saw the video like 10 or 50 meters from the anchor that you messed up your sequence a little bit, and you just decided to do this all point off dyno that looks just ridiculous, no?
Yeah, it was like not a super hard part where I have this two, like one shoulder and a small crimp, and then I studied really well to put my feet very high and go dynamic to a very good jog. But when I was there, I was so pumped that I couldn't move, I couldn't put up my feet. So I decided just to jump to the hole, like desperate. I go, okay, I just go and try to go, because I couldn't put up my feet like a millimeter higher. So I just jumped and took the hold like with my last energy, and was the last part where I risked a lot to fall there. It was the like maybe the main crux for that attempt. It was crazy. It was not one of the hardest part. It was just a mini crux at the end of the route.
So how did you like Flatanger? Is it a place that you want to return? Because I want to return to Flatanger as well, because there's still quite a few projects that could be really hard, I think.
Yeah, it's a place where I want to return because I didn't climb anything else there. I just did 180C and some warm-up routes, and then I focus 100% on change. So there are still 100 of projects, or 9A, 9A plus, 9B, even silence. I would like to give a try and see how I can move there. I think it's a weird route, maybe not my style, even if it's overhanging. The weird moves are not completely my style, but I'm curious to try and to see how hard and how cool it is.
There's actually also something that I call Project Big, which is like to the left of change, that I think could be 9B plus 9C that I would like to try, and I think it will be pretty much your style. The line is perfect, and it's kind of in the most improbable part of the cave. It like it's where the cave looks the most impossible to climb. That's right where it is. And it goes. I did all the moves, and I would like to return. So you're definitely welcome to try it with me.
Oh, thank you. Did you bolt it yourself, this project?
Yes. I think I bolted the next year after I finished change. Because for me, when I first got to the cave in Flatanger in 2012, I had this intention, well, I have to find something hard, bolt it, and try to climbing. And so during that season, I climbed some of the projects that I were already bolted. I bolted change, but then I returned the next year in 2013, and the first trip, the only intention of that trip was like to bolt as much as possible. So during 2 weeks, I think I bolted like 10 routes. Some of them turned out to be, let's say, only 8C or 9A, but one of those projects turned out to be silence. But I think the best project I bolted on that trip was this Project Big. But at that moment, it just felt too hard. So I abandoned, and during that season, I first ascended Iron Curtain 9B and also Move 9B, 9B+.
Yeah, those are two lines that I would like to try. Iron Curtain and Move, they look amazing.
I wanted to ask you about your perfect gloves.
My gloves.
How do you think they work?
I climbed 6C with my gloves. It was the most difficult route I could climb. Because it was cold, and actually it was kind of weird, but good, because in a funny way, because it was a cold day, so I tried to climb with the gloves, and there are a few advantages, because it is not cold on the rock, and you don't have to take chalk because you don't need it. Yeah, it's funny, but it was just a joke. Unfortunately, there are no gloves that help you climbing. Yeah, for cracks, yes, but not for crack climbing.
Could be a part of training, no? I also tried once to climb like easy route with gloves, and I was surprised how like how much more pressure you had to create against the holds. So like the pump is like coming pretty soon, no?
Yeah, you pump a lot more. The pinches, you have to pinch like 10 times harder to hold it because everything is slippery. And one time I tried also with the gloves for boxing.
Yeah.
And it's way harder. You can only take jacks there. It could be our next world record after campusing or blindfolded with gloves.
All right, we need to set some nice route in Masone, like Pietra Murata or Rainy Swipes.
Whoa, that would be hard. Yeah, if you're coming to Arco, you're welcome, and it would be nice to climb together. Otherwise, we will see in Innsbruck competing.
I really enjoyed talking to you.
Yeah,
always.
me too.
Even though I think I enjoy climbing with you even more, but I think soon, this autumn and this winter, we'll have a lot of time to do this as well.
I think climbing will have even more fun.
Allora, ci vediamo e stai bene?
Certo, ciao.
Ciao.
Anche te, ciao ciao. Dai, non vedo l'ora che vieni a provare Erebor.
Sì, wow, questa via sembra fantastica. Mi piace soprattutto della intensità, no? Che parti e pam pam. Poi sono stato sorpreso che l'ultimo bombè è stato così difficile.
Sì, quello era alla fine la parte più dura perché arrivi stanco.
Sì.
E secondo me per te potrebbe essere ancora più difficile perché dove io ho 2 ganci di punta,
Sì?
sono giusto con la mia altezza. Se sei più alto, secondo me è più difficile.
Ma non pensi che posso in questa posizione mettere il talone senza le punte?
No,
Ah, è troppo lontano così.
lontano, sì.